culturally, I think this is still a generation of men that was kind of raised to think that the world was theirs. Obviously,
What my God.
Who thought this?
Who taught this? Where did you get this teaching in school? I never got this teaching. What are you talking about?
Maybe
this was 101 in my masculinities course.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
What
By the
class
way,
did
young
you
man,
take?
I know that you're 6 years old, but the world belongs to you. Act like it. Like, go out there, oppress women, oppress gays, oppress non-white men. Why do they not get it? What, I mean, okay, don't worry about that. It's just so fucking stupid. It's so stupid.
But this stuff drives me crazy. They act like maybe in the early 1900s, there's like, it's a man's world, baby, and you gotta go out there and be a man and provide for your woman. Like, I don't know, maybe in the 1900s you could make this in the early 1900s you could have made this argument that men had this sense of feeling that it was their world. But now, no one fucking thinks that. No one was taught this. This is insane.
Yeah. The gym teacher sat you down and was like, one day you will control all of these women. These women will belong to you. You will be the leader.
Well, no, you remember in
I mean, if this is an
school,
option, I think we could explore it. Like, if they're putting it on the table, I suppose we could consider it.
If they're accusing us of doing it, we might as well, right?
No, you guys are terrible.
Well, they're the ones saying we're doing it.
In grade school, how like in 4th or 5th grade for sex ed, they segregate the boys and the girls.
Totally.
Well, that's what happened when they took all the boys aside.
Exactly.
They were just telling them like boring shit about like how the penis works.
God.
But when they're talking to the women, they're like, okay, women, listen, this is a man's world, okay? So you better all stay at home and pop out as many babies as you can and learn to cook. I better not see any of you fuckers trying to get jobs.
This would be the ultimate scene in a movie for the comedy section where they split up to talk about sex ed, and they talk nothing about sex ed, and they only talk about like the war between the sexes. Ladies, we're going to take these jobs from all these guys.
Yep.
And the men get the completely opposite of that talk. That would be fucking hilarious.
Obviously, it's more complicated than just that. But I think in subtle ways, there's a sense of entitlement that is cultivated in the upbringing of a lot of boys. Especially
this is
a
James
sense
Lindsay.
of entitlement. Oh my God, such fucking bullshit.
Mm-hmm. James Lindsay.
What's wrong with being entitled?
The perfect term for this, the iron law of woke projection, which is the woke always project all their feelings and complaints on everyone else. When these are the people that are the most entitled to everything ever, they feel like they can enter into your space or any hog of your space and then demand complete control, and everyone has to bow down and twist and bend and do whatever the fuck they want. Like, why are you so fucking entitled? Why are you so privileged?
Well, I mean, the thing is, though, what's wrong with entitlement? Like, some people are entitled to some things, and I think that enjoying a private space that you've built up with your own money and effort, I think you're entitled to that. If you're like the Star Trek community or something, you've spent all the money, you've watched all the stuff, you operate in the spaces, and you're entitled to say, I want to talk about Star Wars or Star Trek, sorry. That's perfectly fine.
If you built it, I think definitely you are entitled to, but I just think in the context of like education, upbringing, sociocultural, whatever you want to talk about it, I came up in a time when it was like, you will fight for everything you'll ever get. You like, no one ever promised you fair. That's a completely that whole idea is antithetical to being entitled to anything. I was like taught, you're starting at the bottom, kid. That's not entitled. That's the complete opposite of that. Maybe you got a different upbringing. I don't know, but like,
but
did Dad bring you in, Sargon? Dad was like, this is our country club. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Son, I want you to look inside your boxers. You see that thing between your legs? That's your entitlement. Okay.
I'm telling you, man, my family is full of very strong-willed women. And I came away from my upbringing thinking, right, okay, men are definitely being oppressed by women. So, I mean, I've seen the oppression. I've seen it first.
Now it makes sense now.
Okay,
so
I got you.
It makes sense now.
And I mean, just saying that I specifically have structured my life so I'm oppressing my wife. So.
I mean, I've seen this in movies that, they bring out the elitist that, he walks his son around and says, all this is yours. You're going to be in charge of all this.
Simba, all of this is yours.
It happens in movies and stuff like that. But I just
The Lion King.
There's no you guys understand what I'm saying, right? I
Well,
mean,
no,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
like they think. Remember, there's like the off camera like tirade that Richard Spencer went on about.
Oh yeah.
yes, totally.
They will look, they will look up at us. They
See
think
a
that's
face like mine.
yeah, exactly. They think that's
Yeah.
how like every white male has this secret thought of that Richard
love it.
Spencer speech, like deep inside their heart.
The funny thing is as well, there are a lot of like Zoomer meme pages, and a lot of the memes revolve around the sort of like crying Pepe face, the sort of smushed Pepe face, just
Right.
wanting a family and wanting a girlfriend, wanting to be loved. That's what most, I think, young men are thinking.
Yeah,
Yes.
I agree.
That sounds like entitled privilege racism to me. I don't know.
If
about
only
you.
I could find a wife.
This
You
is-
fucking entitled piece of
I
shit.
know.
This is
You just
what's
want to
so
oppress her.
this is what's so infuriating about that, because that's like a legitimate grievance and they don't even acknowledge it. They completely overlook that. Like, we've structured society where people can't even find someone to love them and have a family. That's a pretty fucked up society to live in.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm working on a script for They Live. Have you seen the film?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah. And one of the boards is marry and reproduce. And I saw this as a meme being put around, being like, the evil overlords in They Live are more humane than our current evil overlords.
No, totally. Totally.
It's a great point,
Totally.
That's awful. That's awful.
Like, you have to be convinced by aliens to want the things that you want naturally. I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty
But
screwed up.
denying people through various sort of initiatives like we have, like disincentivizing, making it seem like it's a good thing to be on your own and to be without a family and without all these deep emotional
Responsibilities.
bonds.
Yeah.
Responsibilities. These sort of thick relationships that I think the conservatives need to return to thinking about. Like, being without those is horrible.
Yeah, it's short-sighted. It is.
Yeah.
Well, when you're talking about like, there's all these like men out there who have the crying Pepes and all this stuff. It kind of harkens to the whole Hegelian nonsense where, the alt left, they only want to deconstruct things because they think some magical alchemy will form and something grand will just magically form out of the ashes or whatever they deconstruct. And it's like they deconstructed masculinity, and they're trying so hard to deconstruct what it means to be a man, what it means to be masculine. So that for a lot of people that's lost, but then there's nothing there.
No
There's nothing
replacement.
else.
Yeah.
There's no replacement. And so this creates an even bigger meaning crisis in so many young men's lives today.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
terrible. This is why it's so funny watching the alt right, the online fascists becoming a bunch of gay cat boys. It's like, what? I'm going to bully you, ironically. And when I do, I'll be doing it in the knowledge that I'm doing you a fucking favor.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, this is what the fuck is wrong with you? Why have you allowed the left to cuck you so significantly? Like, yeah, we've stripped you of your masculinity completely. We're the online fascists. So fucking hell.
Wow.
Fucking, it's embarrassing.
See, white boy. And so the very real gains of women, for example, I think, to the point where it's like, women are now the majority in a lot of universities.
Yep.
It's kind of threatening. It makes boys insecure, young men insecure about what their place in the world is.
Yeah.
They never acknowledge like why that's happening, what the outcome of that situation is going to be if it's sustained over time. It's like, oh, this is the way it should be. Obviously, women should be dominating universities and men should be failing. It's
I
like,
mean,
what
and
the
also,
fuck?
yeah, that's completely true. But whose experience are they talking about? Like, when I was in school, I never walked into class and thought, too many chicks in this class. Like,
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
never
I feel so threatened. Oh my
passed
God.
my mind ever. It was always the opposite.
I feel so threatened. Yeah. Why am I the
I just
only
thought,
guy
for
on
fuck's
this
sake,
campus?
I can't wait to go home. Like, oh, I'm still in school, for fuck's sake.
Exactly. I think there's a kind of crisis of mass.
I want to see the numbers too, because I mean, if women are dominating the
are.
humanities, then
They're dominating universities.
Yeah, but dominating universities.
Well, no,
if they're
even,
all
like-
if they're all in the humanities and there's like 6 guys
No,
left
they're
in
not.
STEM. you're-
Even law school and doctors.
Oh yeah, law
is
they
being
do well.
dominated by women. Yeah.
It's
Women
just something like 60% in the UK of students are female now.
Right.
So it's like, right, okay.
But and that's always why their whole crying about STEM is so bullshit. Because it's like, wait a minute. If you've had fields like medicine and law that were dominated by the patriarchy for hundreds of years, and yet in like 5 or 10 years, it can be completely reversed and overtaken by women. So obviously, there's not some magic misogynist culture that's keeping women out of some certain STEM fields. Okay, obviously, it's just preferences.
There was a misogynistic culture keeping them out of the medical field, but they have like a natural interest in caring advantage over men. So
no, but what I mean is like the second the legal or cultural, the actual legal or actual cultural misogyny was removed, women flooded these fields.
Totally.
And then overtook men in these fields. And the fact that they haven't done that in certain STEM fields proves that it's not misogyny keeping them out. It's just their own.
It's interest level. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what's going on with that law thing? Or does that mean women like to argue a lot? Is that what's going on?
Of course.
I mean, I'm just asking.
Well, it's all verbal reasoning.
I'm not trying to imply anything here.
One interesting thing here is the number of women who have gone into teaching vastly outstrips the number of men.
True.
And has academic accomplishment gone up or down?
Abysmal. Down, I'd say.
Yeah. And is the...
What are you saying, Sargon?
What are you saying?
Well, who's doing well out of schools and colleges and universities now? It's women. Right. So if we're talking about unconscious biases, well, we seem to have evidence for one right here.
There you go. True. And look, we don't have to prove intention because it's just a system, right? It's just an outcome.
Yeah.
Well, that's another. They never bring that up, do they? That it's
why is no one talking about the systemic sexism that's occurring in our colleges all across the world?
Prisons either. They never talk.
And prisons too. Yeah.
Well, they hate men
by their own standards. How can they deny it?
They can't. Your pal Ashley for $20 says, "What's really crazy is that a lot of trades are understaffed. I was talking to an HVAC guy, and he was saying that there's just nobody going to school for that. Everyone wants to get a degree, and these trades are left behind."
Yep.
True.
Yeah. Terrible.
It's kind of threatening. It makes boys insecure, young men insecure about what their place in the world is exactly. I think there's a kind of crisis of masculinity where men aren't sure how to be men in the 21st century.
Isn't that more than enough reason to stop it, though?
Yeah.
Like if something, this thing's making young men insecure. Okay, well then please stop victimizing children.
Yeah, totally. Right. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, you're the one making them insecure.
Yeah. Whatever you're doing, then you've got to stop because it's bad for kids. Right. There we go. Conservatives, do something about it.
You tell young men that men are inherently sexist
and toxic.
That they have all this sexist history behind them, that they're misogynist, and that everything they do is wrong and oppressive. And then you're like, well, I don't know where this crisis of masculinity is coming from.
Why they're getting insecure? I mean,
I know. Why are they insecure? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's awful.
To do now, they're being told that it's toxic to engage in sort of some of the traditional expressions of masculinity, sexual aggression, Don Juanism.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
All the stuff that women like.
Painful.
I'm not like, oh, Don Juan is such an icon, you know.
Right.
Aggression against other men, that
male bonding.
Yeah, something women totally aren't turned on by.
The Don Juanism thing is such bullshit too, because it's not like the alt left types or even the normal left. They're not advocating for men to just and women to just find like a single partner and just be with them. They're like, no, everyone should just fuck as many people as they want constantly.
Yeah, totally. They're advocating that same thing.
Right. They're advocating it just for everyone.
Yeah. So she's arguing against her own position, basically.
Basically.
Yeah. And so there's this anxiety that is pretty legible to me, and things like, this like soy boys and cucks and like all this vocabulary that we got in 2015 was an expression of this sort of, I don't know, identity crisis, quarter life identity crisis of a lot of men.
Yeah, and I think that crisis in the way that it...
I mean, there's lots of soy boys and cucks running around. I don't know what's that.
No, exactly.
It seems to be an accurate representation of reality, doesn't it?
Feeds itself online. I mean, a lot of those instincts and cultural pathologies feel both very distinct to the moment, but also, across time. I think like...
He just called male bonding a cultural pathology. I want to point that out. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude.